Welcome to Comic Power. I am your host, Comic Killer 72. This segment today is called Wicked Wednesday. If you didn't know, Wednesday is the new release for new comics that come out every week. These are my recommendations for the best books to pick up on Wednesday. I will also name one book to be the speculation pick of the week. November 8th is Election Day, so go out and vote for the candidate of your choice. Now about those comics. First up, DC is giving us Batman number 10. In this issue, he's recruited some muscle to help him take down Bane, which includes Catwoman. Speaking of Catwoman, issue 10 also has this variant which has Catwoman doing Catwoman stuff. Speaking of Catwoman again, there's this one shot called Catwoman Election Night number 1. On the night of the mayoral election in Gotham, Catwoman is out doing Catwoman stuff again, but she decides to sabotage it once they involve her name in it. Next up is the Justice League number 8. It turns out that someone is hacking into their computers and causing the Batcave's weapon and security systems to turn against them. This story is relevant to what's going on today in the real world because of WikiLeaks and all the things that's involved with that. Issue 8 also has this Flash variant shown here. I'll have some of that too. Next up is the Sheriff of Babylon number 12 from Vertigo Comics, which is a division of DC. This is the finale issue. Based on true events, it's the story of a Florida cop that becomes a contractor in Iraq right after the fall of Baghdad in 2003. It's a gripping, brutally honest war story. It was an amazing read, a great run. Next up is Unfollow number 13. It's the story of a dying social media billionaire who's going to leave his fortune to 140 random characters or whoever's still alive at the time of his death. So these inheritors start knocking each other off to increase their share of the pie. This comic has been optioned to become a TV show on ABC in the future, so you better be paying attention now. Next up, let's see what Marvel is up to, and that's going to be the Avengers number 1, and this is the post-Civil War II reboot in which the youth movement is over, so there's no more Miss Marvel and Nova and Miles Morales. We'll get to them in a moment. On this team, you have Spider-Man, Lady Thor, Hercules, and the Vision, and the Sam Wilson Captain America. And don't forget the Wasp. A new number 1 means variants, and this one's got plenty of them. I really like this Vision variant shown here. Now let's get back to those teen stars that are former Avengers, and the Champions number 1, which is going to a second print. The print run on this was massive, and it's still going to a second print, so that shows you how well it was received. The Champions consist of Cyclops, Miss Marvel, Kid Nova, Vision, and the totally awesome Hulk, and Miles Morales, the new Spider-Man. They became disenchanted from the Avengers and decided to start their own splinter group called the Champions. So that's how we got here. Issue 2 drops this week as well. And with only 2 issues in, it looks like they're not getting along already, so you might splinter again into another group. And of course, there's more variants. I like this action figure variant showing Miles Morales and the totally awesome Hulk. If you look at the Hulk and say, he looks pretty Asian looking, that's because he is. This version of the Hulk is Amadeus Cho, who is Korean American and one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe. Next up is the speculation pick of the week. And that's going to be Occupy Avengers number 1. Here's your premise. Superheroes are a privileged class. They do what they want, when they want, suffering no consequences. They have no regard for the ordinary people who left behind to suffer in their wake. And who will stand up for the little guy? Well, it's going to be Hawkeye, that's who. This is one of Marvel's best ideas in a very long time, equating superheroes to the 1% elitists that have no empathy for the common man, which spurned real-life protests in the Occupy Wall Street movement. After 2 superhero civil wars, you expect the public to not be trusting of superpower people anymore. And of course, there's variants. The best one's going to be this hip-hop variant right here, which is an homage to Capone and Noriega's The War Report album from 1997. With the main Avengers proper book dropping the same week, this one may be under order and become a surprise hit. Next up is Unworthy Thor number 1 of a 5-part miniseries. If you haven't been paying attention lately, you're seeing Thor who's a chick. That Thor is Jane Foster, who has assumed the hammer of Thor when it turns out that Odin's son is no longer worthy. So what is he up to? Well, it seems like he stumbled upon another hammer which has a blade in it. And it too has a hip-hop variant shown here, which is a homage to De La Soul's 1991 album, De La Soul is Dead. They keep getting more clever with these hip-hop variants. I really enjoy them. Next up is Fool Killer number 1. This is one of the D-list characters that appeared in Deadpool, The Mercs for Money, with the intention of revitalizing some of these forgotten characters. None of them deemed worthy to get their own series, but Marvel doesn't care and they're going to give it to you anyway. The Fool Killer made his debut in Omega Unknown number 8 in 1977, and early versions of the character looked like this. I'm not making this up. The Fool Killer really did look like this. Pretty lame, huh? In this revamp of the character, S.H.I.E.L.D. is using him as a psychiatrist to rehabilitate criminals and supervillains. But he's a mercenary that killed people that he deemed foolish, so how can he do that? On this variant shown here, they use Deadpool to try to sell the book, but it's going to be canceled after 6 issues. I'd bet on that. Next up is our report on independent comics and small publishers. First up is the breakout hit of the year, Animosity, and issue 3 drops this week. After releasing nearly 12 titles, this is their first true hit. It's a dystopian future where the animals have come awake and start talking and take revenge on their slave masters, which would be us. Issue 3 also has a limited variant with a print run of about 200 copies, and it's selling for about $300. There's also one version of this that's black and white that's limited to just 50 copies and is going for about $500 on eBay, which is completely crazy. I would stay away from that, but I would recommend Animosity #1 first print. It sells for about 20 bucks on eBay. The print run is low and the enthusiasm is high, so I would recommend this as a good long-term investment. Next up is Cerebus in Hell from Aardvark Vanaheim. The artist and writer is Dave Sim, who's a real champion for independent comics. This character made its debut way back in 1977, and it showed that the big boys Marvel and DC couldn't completely own the comics industry. There was a place for independent comics where creators could own their work. This character has had a cult following for nearly 40 years. Todd McFarlane let Dave Sim write issue 10 of Spawn, which co-starred Cerebus, showing you just how respected Dave Sim is among other creators. This is the first Cerebus issue since 2004, so it's a pretty big deal. Next up is Lady Mechanica, La Dama de la Muerte, #2, from Benitez Productions. This is the leading comic in the biz about the steampunk movement. Joe Benitez is writing and drawing this, and the quality couldn't be any higher. It's got a real cult following. Next up is Faith #5 from Valiant Comics, and regardless of what your political leanings are, expect for this book to go up in value. It's going to sell out because it's going to be a novelty for people who never bought a comic book before that do want presidential memorabilia. So if she wins, this will probably be a $30 book really soon. While you're out here, go ahead and pick up the Faith trade paperback, which collects issues 1 through 4. This book has been a real surprise hit for Valiant Comics. Next up is Josie and the Pussycats #2 from Archie Comics. It's written by Marguerite Bennett, who's on fire right now because she is also writing Animosity at Aftershock. But let's face it, it's the covers that sell this comic, and this variant right here looks like the old Apple iPod commercials, and that's a good thing. It looks great. Next up is Myopia Special #1 from Dynamite Entertainment. This book started out as a Kickstarter project, and it's supported by big names like George R.R. Martin, Neil Gaiman, and Dean Koontz. It's a mashup of science fiction and steampunk. That's definitely worth taking a chance on. How about not buying Fool Killer and buying this instead? Next up is Muhammad Ali from Dark Horse. This is a hardcover graphic novel. Ali was a great champ, but he was an even better human being. There's no better way to honor him than to have this. Now give a round of applause to the champ as I show him knocking fools out. Next up, the list is just not complete without image releases. First up is Bitch Planet #9. This title is absolutely brilliant. It's about a dystopian future where women that won't conform are sent to an off-planet prison, and Bitch Planet is the nickname for that prison. This title is a mashup of science fiction like Total Recall and blaxploitation movies starring Pam Grier. The writer and creator is feminist Kelly Sue DeConnick, so it's not exploitive. Next up is Mayday, issue #1 of a 5-part miniseries. It's a 1970s era Cold War action thriller. Next up is The Wicked and the Divine, #23. The pagan gods of the past have returned to the modern era and are inhabiting the bodies of young people to influence the public and making them pop stars. I would recommend finding some trades so you can catch up to what's going on. Next up is Southern Bastards #15. This book has been a critical and commercial success from the very beginning, and that will only continue because it just won an Eisner for Best Continuing Series. Congratulations to Jason Aaron and Jason Latour. And last but not least is The Walking Dead issue 160. This is a continuation of the Whisper War. It's a great story arc, but collectors are flocking to the variants by Arthur Adams. If you can get them for cover price, go ahead and do so. I wish he was a full-time interior artist as well. That's about it for today. Thank you for watching Wicked Wednesday, where I review all the new comic books for a new comic day. Be sure to follow my blog at comicpower.net. On social media, follow me at facebook.com/comicpower.net and comicpower-universe.tumblr.com. And don't forget twitter.com/comicpowersub. I also sell comics on eBay at this link. This is Comic Killer 72 for Comic Power saying bye-bye. And don't forget to share this video, click on subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and tell everyone you know about this channel to help it grow. Thank you for your support.